Let's begin the conversation this morning looking at budgets. President Bola Tinubu has called on the Senate to approve an increase in the 2025 proposed budget from its initial 49.7 trillion naira to 54.2 trillion naira. This was done via a letter sent to the Senate and read during plenary by the President of the Senate in Abuja. News Central's National Assembly correspondent, Sagia Ibrahim, brings us more details.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has described the 2025 budget, dubbed the budget of restoration, as a reflection of the administration's priorities in advancing its developmental goals. With 4.91 trillion naira allocated to defense, the Minister of Defense says it underscores the President's commitment to national security.
Well, I believe the President has allocated enough resources for the security, to address the security situation in the country. That shows that the President is concerned about the security situation in the country and he's determined to end insecurity in this country.
Some lawmakers, however, reacted to the presentation of the 2025 appropriation bill by the President.
What concerns me as a parliamentarian is not the issue of statistics being churned in day in, day out. I need to see the reflection of these statistics on my people. I need to see the reduction in poverty. I need to see the serious reduction of hunger. As you go to my constituency tomorrow, the hunger that they witnessed in 2022 is double, is replicated in 2023, double in 2024. So where will that take us?
Some of the assumptions are very optimistic and may not be realizable. We pray that it goes the way he has projected. For example, aiming to hit 2 million barrels per day production of crude oil. As at now, I don't know what the officials are telling him, but I doubt very much if that represents the reality on ground.
We're too import dependent, so our naira is busy pursuing the dollar, and that's why the naira is going weaker and the dollar is getting stronger. And so that projection is to say the level of production that they envisage with that budget will help in bringing down the demand, because we'll be self-reliant, producing what we eat.
With the 2025 appropriation bill now submitted to the National Assembly, members of Parliament will begin to scrutinize the figures in order to facilitate its passage. They, however, urge heads of ministries, departments and agencies to cooperate with the National Assembly to ensure the bill is speedily passed. In Abuja from the Central, I am Joshua Imada.
Now, here's what you need to know about the increased budget. President Tinubu increased Nigeria's 2025 budget, citing additional revenues from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Nigerian Customs Service, and other agencies. The budget allocates funds for sectors like solid minerals, agriculture, and infrastructure, emphasizing security as a priority. $1 trillion is directed towards this solid mineral sector, with 1.5 trillion for Bank of Agriculture recapitalization. There's also 500 billion naira for the Bank of Industry and over 1.5 trillion for critical infrastructure. Senate President Godswill Akpabio promised to pass the budget by February 2025, after, of course, legislative review.
Now, looking at what this budget increase would mean for the average Nigerian is what we cannot say. Like previous years, will this be just one of those budgets passed with actually nothing to show for it? We believe it's beyond numbers. So joining us to talk about what this means and if this is a step in the right direction is investment banker and public affairs analyst, Dr. Naimeka Obiariri. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, sir. Dr. Obiariri, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Thank you for joining the show. So please, first of all, speak to the increase in the budget. The fact that it's happening, is this a good move? Did you see that this was going to happen? There are many people who argued that the initial budget that was presented wasn't presented on with a total picture in place. So is this a step in the right direction?
To be honest, I will not say it's a step in the right direction or otherwise, but the additional increase in revenue, a projection of 6 trillion, is not too much of something anybody should be so worried about, because I even looked at the agencies concerned, and the FIRS, Customs Service, and then they said other agencies 1.8 trillion, but those agencies were not properly defined or what they are bringing to the table. You know, I am one of those who believe that 54 trillion naira budget for a country like Nigeria is not that too ambitious. Some people think it's over ambitious. I even listened to the Sereke Dixon talking about 2 million barrels crude production a day being over ambitious. It's not over ambitious. That if the government is very sincere to protect our oil assets and to do the right things, we've asked them to always to channel investment in that sector and enhance security of the fossil fuel that is produced from the already performing oil wells. Nigeria at the time in this nation in 2010 did almost about 2.8 million barrels a day with crude and condensate, and we exported 2.4 million and used the other one for our local use. So a 2 million barrel projection is not too ambitious. They can actually do 2.4 if they want to do, if they can muster the sincerity and the courage to unbundle the NNPC to become like Petrobras, sell down 70% of the federal government holding through the Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated and Petroleum Ministry, 30% to 3 core investors, 10% with deep pockets and deep knowledge on how that industry is run, and then 40% to Nigerians. Then get the new NNPC to be listed on the floor of the Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange to be as efficiently run as Petrobras and Nigeria liquefied natural gas. And then they do an IPO of $20 billion. If they do this, they will have extra $40 to $60 billion sitting at the Central Bank of Nigeria, which will help us to show up price stability and forex stability. And they know they can do that. This can be done in 6 months, within 6 months, if they are very sincere. And then on the extra monies that they've allocated, I believe that is also one of the reasons why we need to fast track the passage of the new tax reform bill. And the federal government of Nigeria, actually, the Tribal Administration muted the idea of, margin revenue collection, so that customs and the rest of them will stay away from our hinterland and stay at the border post, and then allow the new Nigerian Revenue Service to be collecting those revenues, digitized revenue collection. I'm one of those who believe that customs have not been remitting almost up to 60% of what they actually, 50% of what they collect. Because if customs are actually remitting and the corruption is eliminated through digitized operation and all those stuff, customs should be remitting even more than FIRS, based on the volume of import into this country and what they are currently collecting. And I also believe if the government is sincere, we would have no business running budget deficit. The lowest hanging fruit, which we've always advocated, and is the agricultural sector. Giving 500 billion to Bank of Industry is not the way out. They should set up an agri-trust fund, transparently run and managed. If they can seed it with $1 or $2 billion, they can attract additional $12 billion and do agro packs, 2,500, $6 billion each. We've done the BOQ and the execution plan, the business plan for it. We can hand it over to them. If they do this, in the next 1 year, Nigeria will be doing almost about $109 billion agro exports across all the value chain. These are things they can do. So there's nothing so wrong with the increase. I believe Nigeria should be doing almost about 100 trillion to 150 trillion naira federal government budget if we actually sweat our potentials, reduce corruption and inefficiencies and waste at the ministries, departments, and agencies, and then focus on the key and critical sectors. On infrastructure development, not much was provided there. I believe federal government cannot provide all the infrastructure need through physical revenue. I've always advocated that one of the best routes through which we can do this is to create diverse private-public partnership frameworks. I've found some of the structures we've developed. I termed it missions, community development, diaspora, private-public partnership arrangement. I said to anybody who cares to listen, Nigeria is 12,000 kilometer ring-fenced rail corridor, and the most lucrative route, 807 kilometers, is still the west-east route. The 11 governors will then that flank from Lagos, Shagamu, Ijebu-Ode, or Benin, Onitsha, or Port Harcourt, Enugu, Abakaliki, Afiko, back to Onitsha. That would take about 4 or $5.2 billion to do under a TPOT arrangement, 45 years. Equity contribution, $1.2 billion. The rest borrowed in 5 years. And traffic every year, 300 to 500 passenger traffic. That rail corridor can be repaid back in 7-8 years. Investors will be very glad to put in their money. And we can do all in other sectors of Nigeria. But we must put the right structure in place. And we must do further amendment of the Constitution to allow the physical waterfall and framework to go back to what it used to be between 1960 to 1966, so that the constituent units will look inward. There is no state in Nigeria, I repeat, that cannot generate between $30 to $20 billion annually within their domain. But the problem is that we are running a Babiala, beggarly physical federalism that is so concentrated in Abuja. People focus so much on Abuja without looking at the constituent units.
Thank you so much for your analysis, Dr. Obiorari. Now let's talk about inflation and cost of living. Given Nigeria's ongoing inflationary pressures, could this budget fuel further inflation, or will it help stabilize the economy by boosting productivity and job creation?
Believe you me, we are not fighting inflation through using the right combination of instruments, both physical and monetary. I hear us and I see us every time jack up the MPR rate. The inflation element that can be tackled using the MPR rate is not up to 10%. The major factor driving inflation in Nigeria is price and the effects instability. In fact, the effects instability is already, we are already seeing the Naira hover between 1,500 and 1,000, which is okay, but we still need to do a lot in that area to show, and that means for us to have stable forex stability, we need to shore up dollar liquidity. Look at UAE. Over the last 16-18 years, the dirham had been at 3.66 to the dollar. Nigeria used to be like that between 1970. We used to have the Nigerian pounds stable against the US dollar. In fact, it was 66 pence to the US dollar. For 6 years, it never moved. In fact, in 1970, the Nigerian pence then actually gained over the US dollar by 57 pence to $1 because we had a productive economy. Across board, agro-driven, solid mineral-driven, across all the 4 regions then in Nigeria. So how do we tame inflation? If you look at inflation in Nigeria, the highest contributor to it is food inflation, food and energy inflation. Food and energy inflation, because that is what brought us where we are today. How do we tackle food inflation? For us to tackle food inflation, we need to tackle insecurity. You see what's happening in Northwest and Northeast. I hear the military every time say, oh, we'll push back. You don't need to push back the bandits, Lukawara, ISWAP, and Boko Haram. Nigeria has the strength, in-depth strength to destroy these guys in 6 months. If we are very sincere and we have mastered the political way, we cannot be pushing back those we can easily liquidate. That is the truth. If we can tackle insecurity, and we have advised them on how they can restructure the security architecture of Nigeria to give us 6 months, 1 year window to destroy these elements that have been creating wahala for us. And if we do it, and the farmers are able to go back to work, and now we'll bring in structure, we'll bring in transparency, we'll bring in mechanization, we'll bring in technology. In our agro development, we can do $250 billion. We can produce 100% of what we consume here. Then on energy security, we are gas rich. We were not sweating our gas. Look at Nigeria Refined Natural Gas, one of our cash cows. They don't even receive enough natural gas to fire at up to 65% nameplate capacity. That is what we should be thinking about. What do we do in the short term to ensure that we bring down the cost of energy in Nigeria? A liter of PMS hovers between 900 to 1,100. It's something that used to sell for 7 naira. Can we bring it down to 500 naira, at least stabilize it at that level over the next 1-2 years? Yes, we can do it. And how do we do it? The current refineries are not working. Even after we spent 11 trillion naira on them, the public-owned refineries, over the last 25 years. Obasanjo saw the need for us to inject private sector efficiency in that area. What do? We bring the 3 refineries. Kaduna is already dead. Let us not waste our money in Kaduna. Warri, Port Harcourt, combined nameplate capacity, both of them. We sell down 80% to private investors. NNPC retain 20%. Now, the 4,000 barrels that is earmarked for it, we go into a special arrangement. Cost plus margin arrangement. Cost of production is $31. Cost of refining is $10, $41. 30% margin brings it to about $53. You can't sell it above that across all the white petroleum range. Gasoline, gas oil, DPK, HHK. You know, when you put in this place, we will have something like an IMPET, petroleum purchasing company, owned by Tipman, Maman, Ipman, and other SROs. So they all come together and we'll now put in place digital cover to ensure that all these petroleum products that are produced here in Nigeria are consumed here in Nigeria. We introduce another 160,000 barrels a day capacity for co-located in Warri or in Port Harcourt. When we do this, no matter whatever happens in the international market, you see that go to you tell you, oh, crude oil went up, crude oil went down. That is why they are adjusting prices. If we have this special purpose arrangement, we will have petroleum products in Nigeria coming down, but it will be average of $500 per liter. It will trend down because over time the market will gain traction, and we'll have once we have stabilized energy costs, you will see inflation crash. When we're able to produce what we consume here, I am in that agri sector and I'm in the energy sector, so I understand what I'm talking about. When we put in place this, we will crash inflation. But as long as we continue to leave the physical side, which is where the white elephant is in the room, and then begin to depend on the central bank, who is not even receiving enough dollar inflow to stabilize the naira, to be twinkling and be fiddling with NPR, we'll be wasting our time. And that is the truth. There was a time in this country when NNPC was limiting about $3.6 billion every month to the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that was why the Central Bank governors were able to stabilize the naira. But today, the Central Bank barely receives $550 million from NNPC. And we're not looking at it. The weakest link in the room is NNPC. They have become the problem. And why President Tinubu have refused to do the right thing by putting in place the recommended structures and reforms in that place to make it as transparently run as the Petrobras, as LNG, is what yet I don't understand.
All right. I mean, the NNPC has always come into the conversation. This isn't the first time that we've had NNPC being brought up in conversation from even administrations before this. But I want us to go back to the budget. Now that we're looking at this increase, how do we guarantee transparency and ensuring that the allocations that are being made are used for the intent and the purposes that they're being, intended for?
Olive, I'm one of those, based on experience, based on what has happened in Nigeria, I believe that 60% of whatever is put in the budget as both recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure across the 3 tiers of government and MDAs are looted. And that is the truth. If Nigerian budget is to be transparently done, zero budgeting, bottom up, the way they said they will have, they promised, they came up with a hype in 2015, oh, we are going to go back to zero budget. Let me tell you, if you involve the likes of Deloitte, the likes of PwC, the likes of KPMG, in the budgeting process at the MDAs, I tell you the truth, you will discover that over 60% of whatever we budget in Nigeria as expenditures are looted into private pockets. And that is why you can see the former Akantanyara, they discovered 102 billion naira in his account. You ask yourself, you from Maitama to Asokoro, to Banana Island, to most of the hyper areas, you will see civil servants, directors, owning massive properties, directors whose salaries in 100 years cannot even build a decent three-bedroom bungalow in Lekki Phase 1. It's the same thing. Every year, what they do is that they bring the old budget, they flesh it up. That's why you see a budget over, you see plates, 100 million, plates, 100 million. You will be there. Nothing is good. And let me tell you, it's a game. The National Assembly that is supposed to be there as checks and balances, all they do, you saw the drama in National Assembly. Where was it the police budget? They shared the budget to those they wanted to see it, and those other ones they didn't want to see it, they gave them a different copy. And it's already arranged. The National Assembly that is supposed to be a goalkeeper, a gate man, is out there. They are pursuing contracts rather than supervise and provide oversight function. They are part of the game. You saw under the last regime, it was the same thing. It was the same thing. It is drama. So if truly we want to have efficiency. You see what's happening in America? Donald Trump decided to put in place Department of Government Efficiency. And of course, see the kind of guys he put there, Rashwan and Elon Musk. These are not the kind of guys we're going to bribe. This is a wealthiest man in the whole world, worth $4.1 billion. So you can see the kind of things that are unearthing. That is America. If you put in such a Director of Government Efficiency in Nigeria, and you put someone like Nemeka ready to head it, to come through the project of the federal government of Nigeria, MTS, I tell you only, in 6 months, what will on earth will shock the whole world? 60% of what we budget every year across the government are looted. That is why we have problems. If the work we have appropriated in Nigeria are applied to the key and critical sectors are used in this country will be far, far better than where it is today.
Thank you for that submission. I mean, we have a lot to still hope for when it comes to implementation of budgets. But let's look at budget deficit and borrowing. How does this budget revision affect Nigeria's fiscal deficit? And will the government need to borrow more? And if so, what are the implications for debt sustainability? Because we've discovered more revenue, we are not using it to service our debt, and quite a lot of percentage of this budget is from borrowed money. So how do we balance our books? How do we take care of debt servicing with all this renewed revenue?
See, one of the things that I've discovered about the political class in Nigeria is they are very insensitive. The current political class in this Fourth Republic, unlike the likes of Jokonde, Tafawa Balewa, Ahmadu Bello, Simon Bakwe, and Michael Obara, who care so much and had compassion for their people and taught legacy. This was only think about how to spend. They don't even think about tomorrow. Remember in 2015, June 30th, our total national budget was 12 trillion. Buhari came into power, and by the time he left office, he left 87 trillion naira debt. Over 75 trillion naira new debt was added. External debt, they moved it from 10 billion to 42 billion dollars. We are not even talking about the way and means of 3.5 trillion that Emefiele printed and handed over to him, that they frittered away. In the same country, all of them will be in jail by now. Everybody, 60% of those who work in that government will be either being tried or prosecuted or already jailed. But of course, it's Nigeria, not the people get away with blue murder.
But Emefiele is under trial.
But Emefiele did not just print the money and put it in his pocket. That money was given to people. Nigeria is the only. Did you see? Are you sure what's happening in South Korea? Yeah, see, if Nigeria is South Korea, most of the let me tell you, they will have all of even Buhari himself will have been on the dock, and that's the truth. Now let us stop pussyfooting and the sugarcoating mediocrity in Nigeria and inefficiency. We are where we are because of what happened over the last 8 years. Anyway, let me not digress. Like I said, one of the things I've discovered that we don't look at where we are today. We have no business having budget deficit of 13 trillion naira. Remember that in 2021, we had a national development plan that stated clear that we're going to have investment of over $835 billion in 2021 to 2025. In fact, we projected that in 2025 budget we're going to have a surplus. Today we are still talking about deficit. Yes. If we are doing 2.4 million barrels of crude, we will have had, if we add extra 400 million barrels of crude every day into that revenue waterfall, we will have surplus of 3 trillion naira. And it is doable. Why did the crude oil we used to put, did it disappear? We know what to do. We need to invest into bringing new rigs. We need to be more efficient in our cost of production and all those stuff. We need to bring in new technology. They know what to do. We need to meter all our flow stations, all our pipes and everything. Saudi Arabia has over 15,000 mile pipeline coverage. Yet you won't hear that they are losing 1 liter. Even if a fly perch on their pipes, it will be detected. But Nigeria, why are we where we are today? Because we've refused to do the right thing, to put the right people with the right skill set and integrity in the right places to help us drive this process. And that is why we have no business having budget deficit. We have no business having a budget of 54 trillion when we can actually do 150 trillion. See, I sit here in my private corner. I scan the Nigerian space. I see a country that if we had followed in our growth trajectory in 1970, Nigeria had a GDP of $12.2 billion. South Korea, 58 million people, was $9.2 billion. Today, South Korea is doing $1.63 trillion, 58 million people. Nigeria is doing less than GDP of less than $200 billion. If we are to put our acts together and do the right thing, put in place the right constitutional and physical transformation, put in place the right electoral reform that will enable the right people with the right head, with the right mind, with the right ability to be in the right places. I kid you not, in the next 12 years, we will have a $2 trillion economy. This country is too blessed to be where we are. We're supposed to be rubbing shoulder with Russia, with US, with India, with China. We're not supposed to be rubbing shoulders, even with South Africa. It breaks my heart. Indonesia was at the same level with us in 1990. Indonesia is $1.4 trillion. We should be far ahead of Indonesia. We should be far ahead of Malaysia. We should be far ahead of South Korea. We are a country so blessed and so latently blessed by God, with every demographics in place, that the only missing link is leadership. If we are to resurrect Nnamdi Azikiwe, Tafawa Balewa, Obafemi Awolowo, Michael Obara, Lateef Jokonde, and Simon Bakwe, and put them in this Fourth Republic, by now we will have been far away. The problem is 99% of the political class in Nigeria have no conscience, they have no fear of God, they have no compassion, they have no empathy, they are full of banal ego. They are like hell-links in the Bible. Their thinking is how we can strip the sheep, how we can strip the cow, how we can disembowel it, how we can steal and how we can loot. These guys do not have the make of human kindness. And that is the major problem. When you have, do you know that if these guys are right, they can actually even make all the money they want to make without destroying the economy. But because they do not think legacy, they do not think long term, they do not even think about what their names will be like after they're far gone. And that is why today, see the way we revere Jokonde, we hear Jokonde, we hear him, we talk about this, we practically worship them. We talk about Michael Obara, people go dancing. If any human being can sit down and think about tomorrow, think about how will I be remembered, they won't be behaving the way they are behaving.
All right. So many heartbreaking conversations to explore. But as we wrap up, I want to deviate to something that maybe not a directly related conversation. I want to get your thoughts on the U.S. pausing foreign aid to certain countries, especially with USAID being in the conversation. 2023 was reported that Nigeria received over, I think, $1 billion from foreign aid, from the U.S., and how Nigeria has been reacting to it. There have been controversies that have sprung up as a result of this, but I want to hear your thoughts as we wrap up the conversation.
Between 2015 and 2023, over $7.8 billion was channeled into Nigeria through the USAID to agencies, NGOs. Let me tell you the truth, Olive. You know, some of us fear to say the truth. Some of us are not scared of saying the truth. Over 95% of aid funds channeled into Nigeria through all these agencies are NGOs are looted. In fact, I see most people that run NGOs in Nigeria as criminals. I'm not missing word because we know it. Some of them want NGOs to take care of themselves, feed their family, buy houses, right? Big can. Go and check. Look at across all the agencies in Nigeria that are enjoying this foreign aid. In fact, I'm so happy. If it's possible, Donald Trump should cancel it and provide new channels through which they can intervene and take this thing directly to the people. Look at what happened in 2019, 2020. COVID palliative that was given to Nigeria. Politicians took it and hid it in warehouses. It took the NSAS riots for people to break in to see it. They were preparing to use it to run the election. That is how wicked these guys are. So the truth is, Nigeria is actually supposed to be an aid donor, not an aid receiver. If we have pulled our proper weight, if Nigeria had lived up its expectations when this country became in 1960, today we should be doing what America is doing. We should be a country that has our own UNAID, giving aid to other countries. But I tell you, it's a good thing. I'm so happy with what Trump and Elon Musk are doing. and what will be who is now head of the agency. They should reappraise the whole thing and restructure it. Let me tell you, all the agencies and NGOs that have been receiving aid from the state from 2015 to, they should ban them. In fact, if they have access to this interview, I am asking you, say directly, cancel and they blacklist all the agencies that have been receiving aids in Nigeria, all the NGOs from 2015 to 2023. Cancel them. Don't ever give them aids again, because these are, that is why we had the Chibok girls saga and all those stuff. Bring back our girls. This was part of the games. Because most of these NGO industrial complex in Nigeria are fronts of this West.
We are out of time, but are you saying
Africa and Nigeria?
We're out of time, but are you saying that you do not believe in the cause of the Bring Back Our Girls movement?
The cause. How did the girls even got missing in the first place? Have they been brought back? Only have all of them been brought back? The people that champion will bring back the girls, and they got power with it in 2015. This is almost 10 years after, and they got all the girls back. This is almost how many years after that incident? This is 11 years after that incident. Has Boko Haram been destroyed? Is it not painful for you only to hear that Boko Haram killed 22 of our gallant soldiers? Let me tell you, the truth is, if I am Mr. President, the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, all of them will relocate to Northwest and Northeast. They can't come anywhere near Lagos or Abuja. When they are at the theater of war and their lives are being threatened, I tell you, in 6 months, they will wipe out. The governor of Zamfara State said it. If we have the political will, they can destroy the insurgents and the bandits in Zamfara State in 2 weeks. Only, let me tell you, we know what to do. Nigeria is too strong. Now, Nigeria is too connected. Nigeria is too blessed to be sharing accommodation with criminals. How many are they? What are their resources?
Right.
I wish we could have an extended conversation, Dr.
I think that we should at some point. Maybe we'll have you come back and join us for the extended conversation.
But we do appreciate your insights and thank you for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you this morning.
Thank you for having me.